The next morning, our boy and Elleris set off into a capital alive with excitement. The news of the resurrected princess, the hero's death, and the demon king's fall has everyone rejoicing. Because the war that has taken so many lives is finally over, people are celebrating. Our boy walks among the crowd, following the princess, as shouts of "Long live the princess" echo around them. Instead of joining the celebration, our boy and Elleris make their way to a train in the Oligarch district and head south toward the Boer Boys Gate by the banks of the Irene River. Sitting on a bench at the station, they rely on Elleris's powers to avoid wandering through the streets and parks of the city. Our boy comments on how the area has turned into a street full of homeless people, and Elleris confirms his observation with displeasure, saying that this is, in fact, a homeless shelter. They approach a tent near a fire where water flows from a drainpipe in the wall. Elleris warns our boy to watch his step as they move forward in the dark. He mutters that it is creepy. A girl named Lawyer suddenly stands up from the fire, clenches her fists, and addresses Elleris directly as Her Highness. Our boy is taken aback and timidly says it is nice to meet her, not expecting her to be a girl. He had assumed he would meet a muscular man instead. Lawyer asks if our boy really doesn't remember anything, and Elleris confirms that he has lost all his memories except for the fact that he is the demon prince. Lawyer sighs in relief before suddenly clenching her fists and recalling an embarrassing memory of how our boy, in the past, had made her pretend to be a dog. Elleris laughs and teases her further, making Lawyer furious. Our boy, feeling awkward, apologizes and extends his hand to Lawyer, saying that while he can't change the past, he wants to improve their relationship. Lawyer hesitates, but shakes his hand. After a brief moment of silence, she yanks her hand away and yells at him, accusing him of treating her like a dog again. Our boy quickly apologizes, saying he doesn't mean it that way. Suddenly, someone runs toward them through the water, shouting joyfully. It is Sarkar, who immediately drops to his knees before our boy, overwhelmed with emotion. Tears stream down his face as he praises the great demon prince. He hugs our boy tightly, but our boy struggles to breathe and asks him to let go. Elleris reminds our boy to be cautious around Sarkar, who is fiercely loyal to the demon king and will sacrifice anything to restore the demon world. Lawyer eventually pulls Sarkar back, scolding him, while our boy tries to catch his breath. Sitting by the fire, Sarkar begins insisting that our boy should rebuild the lands of the demons and take revenge on the Empire for their destruction. Lawyer angrily interrupts, accusing Sarkar of sugarcoating things and throwing around empty promises. Our boy crosses his arms and admits that while rebuilding the demon lands sounds noble, it is a reckless plan, as he says he is good for nothing. They sit opposite each other. Sarkar is indignant, asking what kind of good-for-nothing he is. Sarkar explains that he is a great and powerful archdemon standing above all demons. Our boy asks what kind of archdemon he is and why it is so significant. They all stare at him in surprise. Sarkar begins to speak, but Elleris interrupts him, saying that in the Dark Lands, they once called home, a merciless war raged amidst the backdrop of ancient events. Many years ago, humans began to form states to establish order. However, despite their attempts to unite with other races, the demons continued to exterminate one another. One day, a demon appeared who stopped the endless war. Invading their minds, he earned the title of Archdemon as a symbol of their recognition. Over time, this title was passed down to all his descendants. Sarkar raises his fist as our boy asks what he should do. There is a plan, he replies, explaining that first, he must become stronger. His face grows serious, then softens as he says they must return to the demon territory and rally the survivors. Our boy folds his arms across his chest, closes his eyes, and declares, "No." He says this plan is the worst. It's too risky to go there so soon. Frowning, he looks ahead. They are in the heart of enemy territory, the capital of the empire. He resolves to stay, study human culture, and build a strategy. Sarkar bursts into tears. He cannot stop crying at our boy's courage. Our boy, observing his reaction, thinks to himself that it is indeed much more comfortable here than in the lifeless forests. Sarkar raises his hand, claiming to have a brilliant idea. Our boy looks confused. Sarkar suggests attending the Empire's educational institution, the temple. Lawyer laughs at the suggestion, finding it absurd, but for once, she and Sarkar seem to be on the same wavelength. Our boy looks at them both, feeling thoroughly confused. Sarkar excitedly declares that our boy can grow stronger and sow the seeds of revenge within the temple, where geniuses are trained and heroes are born. Our boy says the plan is quite decent, but feels nervous as he glances at Elleris, realizing he might not convince them so easily. Elleris also praises the idea as brilliant. Our boy steps back, stuttering as he tells them to slow down. He reminds them they don't even know how the temple works or what will happen if his identity is discovered. Sarkar takes off a ring and hands it to our boy, assuring him that it will take care of everything. Our boy puts it on and learns it allows him to transform into anyone. His pitch-black eyes gleam as Sarkar declares that the revival of the demon empire is within reach. They decide he will join the temple. He will use a fake identity created by Elleris or Sarkar, but he also worries about the risk of discovery, especially after the princess returns and investigations into Charlotte's kidnapping begin. Lawyer lifts the flap of a nearby tent and introduces him to Daibun, a trusted ally. Daibun shakes our boy's hand, and they exchange greetings. When asked for his name, our boy hesitates before giving a false name, Reinhardt, as Elleris has advised. Then the scene shifts to few moments earlier, where Elleris and our boy were talking. She warns that using the name of the previous Demon King will expose him too easily. Thinking back while sitting around the fire, the group brainstorms potential new names for him. Lawyer suggests Hellscream, which Sarkar rejects as too vicious, and Elleris vetoes Rich King for being even worse than his real name. Our boy grows frustrated and shouts that this endless debate has to stop. He accepts the name, Reinhardt, even though it feels strangely familiar, as it is the name of our boy. With his appearance changed by the ring and a false identity crafted, he prepares to join the temple. Lawyer tells Daibun to create an ID for our boy and arrange for him to enter the temple. Daibun agrees, but asks how they will cover the cost of tuition. Everyone freezes, realizing they have overlooked the expense. Daibun reveals that their current income can't cover even a single semester's fees. Our boy becomes shocked and suddenly remembers that these beggars don't have enough money for such an elite education. The temple, the most prestigious school on the continent, charges tuition equivalent to $100,000 in his world. Lawyer, resting her head on her hand, remarks that it is surprising how poor they are. Our boy, drinking from a glass, avoids the subject. When Lawyer angrily suggests taking money from their candy business, Daibun dismisses the idea, reminding them it will ruin their shop. Frustrated, our boy raises his hand and proposes they only pay for the first semester and earn a scholarship after that. He reasons that, with the world lacking a hero, the temple might begin searching for candidates and will cover training costs for those who prove themselves worthy. Even as a low-ranking demon, he is still an archdemon and feels confident he can achieve at least one talent worthy of a scholarship. Lawyer exclaims at his determination, but our boy thinks to himself that if things go badly, he can always rely on his system points to buy talent. Daibun remains skeptical, pointing out that their current budget can't even cover the application fee. He explains that income from the Boys Gate Bridge has been declining lately, leaving them strapped for cash. Our boy thinks for a moment, then asks why they don't look for opportunities elsewhere. He suggests that if customers aren't coming to them, they should go where the people are. The group considers the idea of selling on trains, where parents will buy toys for their screaming children regardless of quality. Lawyer, impressed, praises our boy as a genius for the idea. Our boy takes his hand forward for a handshake with Lawyer, but Lawyer pets and starts behaving like a dog, which surprises Daibun. Sparks fly between the werewolf and our boy as they bond over the plan. Daibun confidently declares they will make it work and ensure our boy is accepted into the temple. As they celebrate, the group raises their mugs in laughter. Daibun laughs and shouts for everyone a toast drink to their new family member. Everyone raise their mugs and cheer for our boy under the moonlit sky. As the celebration continues, our boy notices Daibun mentioning a group and asks who they are. Daibun casually replies that it's their group. Our boy frowns, remembering how Lawyer has a large organization that supports their operations, including the infiltration squad and a magic shop. Despite this, they still have money for casual evenings, making him suspect she is hiding something. Lawyer suddenly appears behind them, furious. Her glowing eyes create a menacing atmosphere. She grabs our boy by the shirt, drags him along the ground, and scolds him for not thinking about the consequences of his drunken actions. Our boy asks about her other source of income, suggesting she might be extorting money from others. Lawyer admits reluctantly that selling candy is just a cover and that her group occasionally helps the Thieves Guild gather information. She assures our boy that she can explain everything if he wants to know, but also that he won't need to deal with them after entering the temple, especially if he earns a scholarship. Our boy doesn't push further and goes to bed, knowing she won't tell him more. The next day, our boy and Daibun visits the capital's administrative bureau to get our boy's fake ID. The process is easier than expected. Daibun then guides him to the temple's reception area, an elaborate building with golden interiors. Daibun comments on the sheer number of wealthy families sending their children to the temple. They notice a consulting office where a test determines if applicants have outstanding abilities, granting free training to successful candidates. Daibun suggests they try, and despite our boy's hesitation, they proceed. At the application window, a girl greets them coldly. Our boy confidently announces his intention to pay for 1 semester. But the girl sighs and explains the temple no longer allows students to pay for just 1 semester, citing issues with students borrowing money. Our boy, irritated, realizes his plan is falling apart. Daibun suggests they take the free abilities test instead. Although our boy doubts it will lead anywhere, Daibun convinces him to give it a try. The girl sighs tiredly, opens a closet door, and prepares for their test. Our boy whispers that it might be a waste of time, but Daibun urges him not to be a coward. With no other choice, our boy reluctantly follows, hoping for a hidden talent to be revealed. They need to try everything possible. In the testing room, the employee tells our boy to place his hand on the ball. He hesitates, worrying it might detect his demonic power, but decides to rely on the ring if his identity is revealed. He places his hand on the ball as the employee glances at the screen and frowns. Our boy panics, wondering if he should run, but the employee apologizes, saying the device seems faulty and needs to be replaced. Daibun leans toward our boy with a grin, asking if he is secretly gifted. Our boy brushes him off, hoping the malfunction is due to his human transformation. The employee brings out a new sphere and assures them it has been tested. Our boy touches it again, and text appears on the screen. Daibun, growing impatient, shouts to know what it says. The employee stutters and explains that our boy has aptitude. It's not enough to call him a genius, but it indicates a high chance of success with proper effort. Our boy stares at the screen in shock as it reveals something extraordinary and his potential extends to everything. The results show that our boy Reinhardt was born with an aptitude for everything in this world. According to the results, our boy can use both holy and dark magic. Daibun, overwhelmed with excitement, hits our boy on the back, causing him to slump forward onto the table. Meanwhile, people outside the testing room sell gums to the crowd. Lawyer asks our boy about aptitude. Daibun murmurs that it is amazing that an elite talent appears among them. Our boy, though initially stunned, thinks about how his limitless potential makes sense. With achievement points, he can develop talent in any field: swordsman, mage, archer, and more. It seems the world is gifting him this ability to carve any path he desires. Daibun calls out to him, worried, but our boy quickly assures him he is fine. Daibun laughs and reminds our boy that without him, he'd never have discovered this. As they leave the temple, our boy realizes his inclusion in the main plot is inevitable. With his limitless potential, he can easily be placed in the royal class. The royal class is the most elite at the Temple Academy, granting scholarships, luxurious dormitories, and freedom to attend any class. It is home to the Empire's brightest talents. Our boy, however, feels conflicted. He hopes to quietly study in his first semester and accumulate achievement points, but now it seems impossible to keep a low profile. By evening, our boy finds himself assigned to Class 1A, the most elite among the royal classes. Elleris worries about his condition as he sits at his desk, his head on the table. He can't help but think about his novel, Ludwig, a transfer student from Class 1B. Ludwig hates Class 1A for their arrogance, but eventually grows closer to them over time. Our boy sighs, knowing that most of his classmates are egotistical and cruel. While his limitless potential is a blessing, It comes with enormous pressure. Elleris encourages our boy, but our boy thinks about the villains he is going to meet in class. Elleris pours herself a drink as our boy watches her, still wondering why she is so insistent on sending him to the temple. Our boy, however, fears the opposite. What if his newfound power changes his mind and drives him to start another war? Elleris believes that if our boy spends enough time among humans, he might stop hating them. As he thinks this over, Elleris places a suitcase in front of him. It contains his clothes, reminding him that one school uniform won't be enough for his time at the temple. Fire appears in Elleris's hands as she places a necklace around our boy's neck. He takes it in his hand and examines it closely. Elleris asks if he remembers the nickname Tuesday. Our boy thinks back to when she first revealed it at her shop. She explains that the name comes from the 7 vampire clans known as the 7 Knights. The Monday and Sunday clans vanished long ago, and their magic is lost, but the remaining clans continue to develop their respective elemental powers and pass them down through generations. The necklace is the treasure of her clan, the Tuesday tribe, and the symbol of its leader. Our boy looks at the pendant, realizing Elleris is the leader of her clan. He wonders why she is giving him something so valuable. She explains that, just as he receives the ring of the Dreadfind house, she is giving him her clan's treasure. The necklace allows him to wield fire magic, depending on his mana reserve. Testing its power, our boy stretches out his hand, and flames appear. He stares at the flame in awe, but Elleris warns him not to get too attached to the power of Tuesday's flame. Its strength is tied to his emotions, particularly his enmity toward others. Our boy understands that she is giving it to him out of concern for his safety. Thanking her, he promises to protect it and use it sparingly. Elleris smiles softly, reassured by his words. Our boy then goes to the warehouse, where Lawyer hands him a bag containing his allowance. Since his scholarship covers tuition, the money is his to use as he wishes. Lawyer reminds him not to waste it on nonsense. Her words leave our boy momentarily shocked before he pushes her out and closes the door. As he bows his head, he remembers a significant problem. The genre of the Demon King's death is everyday life, a novel he writes to please fans who dislike his tragic endings. However, he lacks the talent for writing happy conclusions, and the plot becomes chaotic. Our boy recalls how, in the middle of the story, a gate opens to other worlds, leading to an invasion by a monster army. Our boy clenches his teeth, cursing himself for such a reckless twist. Our boy thinks about running away, but realizes the people of this world shouldn't suffer because of his poor decisions. Determined to take responsibility, he decides to study at the temple, grow stronger, and earn achievement points. He resolves to prevent the monster's invasion, even if it means entering battle himself. The next day, standing before the temple, our boy hears instructions for new students to collect their student cards and admission letters, with the royal class directed to the dormitory lobby at 13. He marvels at the capital, surprised by how much his hurried world building has created. As he enters the temple, overwhelmed by its size, a girl approaches him and introduces herself as Ceres Van Owen, the head of the royal class. She shakes his hand, checks his information, guides him to his dormitory, reminds him about the freshman welcome party, and tells him that attendance is mandatory, so he should come. Our boy thanks her before heading off. When our boy finds his room, he scans his ticket, and the lock vanishes. Entering, he is shocked by how luxurious the space is. It is far larger than anything he imagines. He unpacks the welcoming gift, which includes a map of the temple, dormitory rules, a snack, a pen, and a notebook. Sitting on the bed, he thinks about all the important characters in the story he writes. The sun illuminates the room as he begins preparing himself for the days ahead. Our boy lies on his stomach, writing in his notebook and thinking about the characters, Bertus and Ellen. The royal class students are called to gather, and time passes faster than our boy realizes. Turning to his notes, he admits that while he doesn't remember every character, his notes help him recognize who is who. Sitting in the lobby, he notices girls admiring a boy while 2 boys nearby grumble. Our boy looks at them, but can't recognize more than half of the faces. He glances away, only to see older students glaring at him. Their expressions are intense and hostile, which confuses him. Seniors usually aren't interested in first years. Someone suddenly steps on his foot, and our boy falls to the floor in pain. The person apologizes and offers his hand to help him up. Scratching the back of his head, the boy introduces himself as Ludwig. Our boy shakes his hand and immediately recognizes him as Reinhardt. Before he can dwell on it, the announcement is made instructing newcomers to take seats in the center of the lobby. As our boy finds his seat, he notices that Class B has 11 students instead of the 10 from his story. He wonders if this is due to his unexpected appearance in the plot. Some boys approach him, questioning how he manages to get into the royal class. Our boy already knows what is coming: mockery and tension. An announcement is made for the students to introduce themselves. Our boy thinks it would have been easier to end up in Class B, 11 instead. One of the boys introduces himself as A1, the top-ranked student, Bertus de Guardias. Our boy recognizes him as someone who, in the original plot, thinks he was supposed to enroll under a fake identity. Other students begin introducing themselves. Harriet is A4, and Kayer is A10. When our boy stands to introduce himself as A11, all eyes turn to him. Whispers about his unlimited potential fill the room. Bertus smiles silently, and our boy feels embarrassed by whispers. Feeling awkward, he covers his face as a girl named Charlotte stands up, smiling, and introduces herself as B1. Our boy becomes shocked after seeing the princess there. Charlotte introduces herself, and Ludwig notes that the temple is independent of the empire's authority, meaning even members of the imperial family have to prove their abilities to enter. Our boy recalls that, apart from Bertus and Charlotte, no other members of the imperial family are in the royal class. Our boy emphasizes that this fact alone means enormous power awaits Bertus if he graduates with honors. Our boy imagines Bertus on the throne, realizing he is the hidden villain of the Demon King's demise. He thinks about how both the first prince and the first princess entered the same temple in the same year. This deviation makes our boy uneasy, as it is not what is written in the novel. Our boy thinks it might be because he and the princess were meant to die, but they survived. Bertus has already revealed his identity as the first prince of the empire, contrary to the original plot, where he keeps it secret. Bertus awakens 3 abilities through massive funding and effort by the empire, becoming a master of swordsmanship, magic, and mana control. He is a perfectly engineered hero, but our boy thinks that without all these traits, he wouldn't have become the empire's greatest swordsman. Our boy sighs, knowing Bertus isn't his biggest concern. Instead, he is more worried about Charlotte, the first princess. She is in Class B, which makes him wonder if she isn't on Bertus's level. Our boy assuring that Betrus's skills are not according to A1 class. He questions if the teachers are nervous about having 2 imperial family members in the royal class for the first time. Ceres steps to the microphone and explains the rules of the royal class. She declares that within the temple, all students are equals regardless of their status. Commoners and nobles alike are treated the same, with no exceptions beyond the distinctions between upper and lower classes. She raises her hand to emphasize her point, making it clear that merit is all that matters at the temple. Ceres addresses the students, asking if they all understand that the temple cannot function if feuds over family power are allowed. Frowning, she warns that anyone using their status to pressure others will receive a reprimand from the student council president. Too many reprimands will lead to a sub-council deciding on disciplinary action, possibly resulting in expulsion. The room falls silent as Ceres continues, revealing a letter from the Imperial Palace of Guardias. She explains that, while such letters are rare, she will read it due to its importance. She reads aloud that if Princess Charlotte is harmed, regardless of severity, the responsible party will lose their right to the throne forever. Ceres notes that this is a direct order from Emperor Nello. Our boy realizes the letter isn't just a warning, but a message for both supporters and rivals of the imperial family to tread carefully. Our boy smiles, interpreting the message as an instruction to protect one another and compete honorably. Our boy figures this will prevent Bertus and Charlotte from being at each other's throats for now. Our boy sees Bertus begin mingling, asking a guy Leferi if they are truly equals. Leferi hesitates, holding his head in disbelief. Bertus intervenes, asking if things will get harder if reprimanded, to which Leferi reluctantly agrees. Our boy observes how smoothly Bertus manipulates the conversation, endearing himself to others while subtly asserting dominance. Then Bertus approaches a girl, Ellen, to introduce himself. She seems indifferent, replying that she doesn't care about trivial rankings, even though she has been demoted to A2 from A1 by Bertus. Our boy notes that Ellen is so good that she can be in Class A, and her real surname is Aratorius. She is Reagan's younger sister, the hero who sacrifices himself to overthrow the Demon King in the original story. Meanwhile, Ludwig tries to make conversation with the class, but his awkward approach leaves many annoyed. Ludwig greets Reinhardt, and then he approaches Harriet, another student, but she lashes out, calling him an idiot and declaring that Class B students don't belong there. Bertus steps in, gently reprimanding Harriet for overreacting. Harriet, embarrassed, apologizes but is clearly flustered. Our boy observes her and recalls that she is Duke Allen's daughter, highly talented in magic and protective of her reputation. Bertus introduces himself to Ludwig. Bertus smooths things over with his usual charm, offering Ludwig assistance if he needs it. Ludwig, meanwhile, earns disapproval from the class for his antics. As our boy watches the interactions, he receives a notification from his system, 100 achievement points for completing his first day at the temple. Surprised, he checks the list of rewards, but his excitement fades when he realizes how expensive talents are. He mutters to himself that he only has enough for one small reward for now. He browses the list, tempted to buy a magic talent, but sees he is still far from affording it. Squinting at the options, he thinks about what to prioritize next. For now, his goal is clear. He needs to work harder, gain more achievement points, and survive the chaos ahead. Our boy imagines how people cast spells and emphasizes that, at the initial stages, superpowers are terribly weak, difficult to control, and require regular training. Frowning, our boy notes that he wants to save up a few more achievement points before taking a superpower. Our boy mentally notes that he will make a decision after looking around. Sunlight envelopes the castle. Despite the fact the entry ceremony of the royal class is held separately, the whole process is quite simple. Our boy sits at his desk as the headmaster introduces each class to their homeroom teacher, and then they are taken to a private class building near the dorms. Looking out the window, our boy notes thoughtfully that there is nothing special about the entrance ceremony. He wonders if that means that, even with a prince and princess, nothing will really change there. The teacher asks him not to get distracted. Our boy turns his gaze and looks at the teacher, noting that it is the homeroom teacher of the class. The teacher, Eppenhauser, introduces himself with a serious expression. Looking at the students, he says that on Mondays and Thursdays, they will have general classes, and on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, they will have classes that they sign up for in advance. Eppenhauser looks at A1. Bertus tells him that it is him. The teacher looks at him and announces that he is temporarily appointing him as the leader, noting that management of the group and suggestions should be made through the leader. Eppenhauser, with his hands behind his back, states that if they want to change the leader, they should discuss it with the class and then report to him. He notes that anything he needs to convey to them will be through A1. The teacher looks back and notes that there is an exception. He looks at the frightened students and says that they can contact him directly if they witness a fight, adding that they do not allow students to kill each other as much as they can. Putting his hand on the book, the teacher says that they cannot stop all precedents, so they have to be careful with each other. He asks them to find out what skills their classmates have. The boy turns to him. Eppenhauser turns his attention to him. Kono raises his hand and asks what the teacher will do if they have to intervene. Eppenhauser adjusts his glasses and says that they are treated specially in the temple and that while they are of particular value to the Empire, they can also be dangerous to others. He asks if they have been warned before joining. Kono is taken aback and asks again. Eppenhauser says, with a serious expression, that to put it simply, as the head of the royal class, he has every right to immediately punish students who have a special attitude. The boys are scared. Raising his hand, Kayer asks if Eppenhauser can do it. The teacher looks at him and replies that it is because he can do it and that he has been doing it for 10 years. He remarks that he hopes they now understand what he means by the words, "Be careful." Stunned, Kayer mentally asks if teachers have to be so cruel. Eppenhauser takes the paper and says that this is unusual and turns to our boy. Surprised, our boy asks if it is him. Eppenhauser looks at him and asks him to follow him. Our boy, being stunned, mentally asks why they come to the teacher's room. Eppenhauser is sitting opposite him, saying that he has unlimited potential. Despite this, he still does not have a single talent. He pulls out the paper and asks our boy to look at it. He looks at the documents of the two boys, after which the teacher says that Grants, a 3, has a superpower and Cliffman, a 5, has a fighting talent. He says that Grants will take lessons in meditation and control of superpowers, and Cliffman lessons in close combat. Eppenhauser seriously notes that, in other words, their classmates have specific abilities and obvious ways to develop them. Taken aback, our boy replies that this is true. Adjusting his glasses, the teacher says that our boy has potential in any area but lacks talent. He suggests that our boy can't decide on the area in which he would like to develop. Our boy, with a stone face, asks if Eppenhauser is trying to help him. The teacher says that sometimes it happens that someone's potential and talent differ from what they would like to do. Closing his eyes, Eppenhauser notes that he has seen this more than once, but unlike them, our boy has the advantage of choosing absolutely any area. Our boy closes his eyes and says seriously that he would like to study superpowers. Eppenhauser stares at him. Looking at the document, the teacher replies that he understands our boy has potential in many areas and asks if superpowers are included. Holding the back of his head, our boy replies with a smile that he has unlimited potential, so it is possible. Our boy thinks about how he chooses superpowers because they are cheap, but he doesn't really like Eppenhauser's reaction. Putting the paper down, the teacher states that, according to the temple's rules, students who don't have the appropriate talent are not allowed to attend superpower classes. Looking down, Eppenhauser notes that, for the royal class, everything is a little different, but our boy can be expelled if he doesn't show results. Our boy looks serious. Putting the book away, the teacher says that, for now, our boy will have one subject. Our boy looks at his schedule. The teacher states that our boy cannot ask to change it. Looking at our boy, he says it is quite difficult to awaken a superpower with just one effort, so he should not be afraid to try other areas. Our boy's face is puzzled. He looks out the window and thanks the teacher for his help. Our boy returns to the classroom. Opening the door, our boy notes that this teacher is much better than he thought. Our boy is suddenly taken aback. All his classmates are looking at him. Looking at the guys, he wonders why they are staring at him. Kare calls out to him from behind. Grinning, he asks if our boy has any talents. He is standing next to him. Frowning, our boy answers that he does and asks what is wrong. Kare stands in front of all the guys and asks if they are okay with it, noting that this is the royal classroom. Pushing his chair back, he asks if it is okay to let rabble with some kind of unlimited potential in there. Looking at our boy, he asks how he gets in there at all, noting that only the most gifted are allowed into their class. Bertus watches him with a smile. Looking down, our boy asks him to shut up. Kare is taken aback by this. He asks how our boy dares. He pointed out that he was there because the admissions committee had decided so. Standing up from the table, our boy asked if Kare was trying to say that he was better than the temple administration. Our boy asked with a serious expression whether he was above them or not. Our boy stands face to face with him and asks why Kare had opened his dirty mouth in that case. Our boy pointed at him and asked him to look at himself. He points out that this Mr. is an A10 whose ability was a huge supply of mana, but who had no aptitude for magic. Our boy put his hand on his head and asked him to show it when he was worth something. He sits down at his desk. His classmates, dumbfounded, begin to whisper about him. Our boy sits at his desk and assumes that he is screwed up. He thinks seriously that he has no talent, so now they will think he can't control his anger. He wonders in his mind if he should just let it go. He looks back. Bertus is looking at him with a smile. Our boy stares at him, wondering in his mind why he is staring and if he is up to something. People are getting food from the cafeteria. The boys are sitting at tables and eating. Our boy watches Bertus. Looking at him, our boy notices that he can't concentrate because of his gaze. He looks at his fork and thinks that he shouldn't have gotten into a fight with Kare. He wonders why everything is going the way he expects. He writes in his notebook. Our boy starts coughing loudly. A dark aura hangs in the classroom. While there is a scary atmosphere in Class A, everything is joyful in Class B. Our boy sits alone at the table and thinks that, as soon as he takes the place of the fool, the atmosphere in the classroom immediately begins to deteriorate. Bertus asks Harriet if she has a talent for magic. She answers with an embarrassed look that she does. She asks if Bertus has control over magic and susceptibility to magic. Our boy shifts his gaze. Harriet guesses that they have pretty similar abilities. Charlotte raises her hand and says she doesn't like fatty foods. She looks at a piece of meat, and Ludwig tells her that she needs to eat more meat if she wants to recover faster. Our boy watches them and wonders if he is working himself up for nothing. Our boy frowns and thinks that introverts like him don't need to worry about extroverts. Boys run around the square. The teacher looks at the students and tells them to run and stick together. Our boy becomes exhausted mentally and asks if there are 20 laps. After eating, our boy runs after the teacher, who shouts that they must be in excellent physical condition no matter if they specialize in close combat, magic, or have a superpower. He notes that if they do not meet the standards of the Empire, they are finished. Harriet runs at the end and says she is going to die. The teacher catches up with her and asks if she really feels like she is on the verge of death. He says with a furious look that if this were a real fight, she would already be dead. Our boy is suddenly called out and turns around. Ludwig runs up to him and asks if our boy is tired yet. He runs away from our boy and asks him to push himself. Our boy thinks about how hard it is for him to be friends with energetic people like Ludwig. He wonders if this will be the case for him throughout the semester. Ellen runs past them. Our boy looks at her and notes that this is to be expected. Our boy runs after her and thinks that she is the same in the novel, and Ludwig can only match her in endurance. His eyes turn red. The guy starts doing sit-ups. Our boy, dumbfounded, wonders what kind of devilish workout this is. He suddenly sees Charlotte sitting on a bench. Watching her, our boy notes that he envies her even though she is sitting out because she hasn't fully recovered. Our boy watches as the teacher yells at the crying girl. Our boy, dumbfounded, mentally notes that if the teacher finds out he is slacking, she will give him 10 more laps. He begins to try to get up with all his might. The boys are changing in the locker room. Kono is too tired to open the closet. Our boy, looking exhausted, takes off his t-shirt. Frightened, Kono says the same thing awaits them on Thursday. Putting away their things, our boy assumes that he will die on Thursday. Kair approaches him and says that our boy is not in such great shape. Putting on his shirt, our boy asks what he cares about. Kair replies that looking at our boy, he doesn't seem good at fighting. Smirking, he asks why our boy is acting tough in class. Our boy looks at him and says that Kair is the one who picks on him first. Kair pushes him and asks how such a simpleton dares to treat him like that. The boys watch the fight. Kair says that our boy won't be able to say any more nonsense. Kair closes his eyes and says it is nonsense that our boy has managed to get into the classroom. Our boy grabs Kair and, swinging his fist, our boy punches Kair right in the face. The boys fight in the locker room, and the people around them shout that they need to be separated as soon as possible. Bertus and Ludwig pull our boy away with all their might. The blue-haired boy pulls away an enraged Kair, who yells at him to take his hands off and that he will kill his opponent. From behind the closed doors, they can hear shouts for someone to break them up and call the teacher. Eppenhauser looks at them, frowning. The boys sit in the teacher's office opposite him, displeased. Kair points at our boy, yelling that he hits him first. Our boy looks away and frowns, imagining Ludwig. Thinking that it is true they have fought, he wonders how their teacher gets there so quickly. He figures it is the work of Ludwig's ally, who called the teacher. The teacher lowers his head in front of the indignant boy and tells Kair to shut up and not say anything he hasn't been asked. Looking up tensely, Eppenhauser asks our boy if it is true that he hits first. Our boy frowns as his opponent joyfully points at him. Our boy decides to add to his words. He says that Kair has said things that undermine the reputation of the temple. Kair gets angry when he hears this and clenches his teeth. They sit at the table opposite the teacher. Kair, spreading his arms, asks when he does this. Eppenhauser frowns and asks our boy to explain in more detail. Our boy looks at the teacher seriously and says that his rival repeatedly says that the admissions committee is doing its job in bad faith. The teacher looks at him in surprise and asks him to continue. Our boy lowers his head and says that he tells Kair that a student has no right to criticize decisions made by the temple. He clenches his fist and says he admits he has gone too far because he is angry that the temple's authority is being undermined. The guy looks down in frustration. Kair raises his fist while our boy says that his rival tries to humiliate him for his lack of good physical training. Kair tells our boy to stop talking nonsense. The teacher gets angry and tells the two to keep quiet. He looks at our boy and asks what he means when he says that A10 is damaging the temple's reputation. Our boy tilts his head and smirks, deciding that his rival has been caught. He thinks that he knows perfectly well how to anger or please his characters. The guy raises his head and begins to cry, shouting Kair's name. He looks at the surprised guy and says that he declares in front of the entire class that our boy has cheated his way into the class. Our boy thinks that, after all, he has created this world. Kair listens in fear as our boy says that he can stand his mockery. The teacher looks at the very frightened Kair and listens to him say that he has encroached on the sanctity of the temple. The guy lowers his head, holding it with his hands, and our boy says he regards this as an insult to the great empire of Guardias. He cannot contain his anger. Our boy stands up and lowers his head, apologizing for his recklessness. Our boy believes that Epenhauser's personality trait is patriotism. The teacher frowns and glares at Kair, asking if it is true. Kair looks confused and raises his hand as the teacher repeats the question. The teacher looks at our boy and the crying Kair, saying that he only needs to hear yes or no. Our boy imagines a framed photo of Epenhauser and says his name. He imagines the man standing and reading a book, thinking about how he is a patriot with an incredibly strong sense of pride in the Guardias Empire and the temple, so he is hostile to anything that defames them. Kair sits with his fists clenched and his head down and listens as the teacher tells him to stay there. The teacher sits opposite the boy and allows our boy to return to the classroom. Our boy enters the classroom with his classmates. He walks around the classroom, and the boys turn to look at him. Our boy sits down at his desk and, closing his eyes, thinks about how he can already sense that a rumor will spread in the two royal classes that he is not only untalented, but also terribly aggressive. He looks out the window with frustration, leaning his elbow on his hand, and thinks. A notification about completing the fight challenge appears in front of the turned-away boy, for which he receives 200 achievement points. He frowns at the message and wonders what it is. Our boy decides that, at least, he won't have to hit the prince in the face anymore. A notification appears with a new challenge. It is necessary to get the best result for the physical education exam. Our boy gets angry and thinks he will get it only if he breaks Ludwig and Ellen's legs. Another window appears with a challenge to get into the top 10 for the midterm exam. The boy gets angry and clenches his fist, wondering how he will do something he could not even accomplish on Earth. The system reports that he needs to get a love confession. Our boy is furious and thinks that for this, only 1,000 points? Because it is unlikely to ever happen. A list of challenges appears, consisting of writing a love letter and getting rejected, skipping classes, getting punished by the teacher, and drawing graffiti at night. He looks in surprise as the teacher enters the room and asks for silence. Kair, being frustrated, closes his eyes and walks past the desks. Our boy frowns and, looking at how sadly his rival is sitting, decides that, judging by his expression, he is unlikely to pick on him again. Epenhauser stands in the center of the room and asks if everyone is there. He looks seriously at the surprised Bertus and asks him to collect the pre-registration forms. The man watches as the boy approaches the desks with the forms and asks everyone to prepare their forms for him. The teacher takes a stack of papers and says that those who are not completely sure can stay here. The rest are free to go. No one should forget to get permission from the dorm leader if they want to go outside the temple. Our boy holds a form, looking at the class and thinking about how about half of them are still deciding. He writes on the sheet, looking away with displeasure. He looks at the door and hears Leferi shouting. He frowns and thinks there is only one reason why he is yelling like that. He looks out into the corridor and sees Leferi shouting at the red-haired girl, saying she is already annoying. How many more times does he have to tell her to stop getting annoying him? Our boy looks at the confused girl on the floor and thinks about her red eyes and hair, which are impossible not to notice. The guy remembers that scarlet is a symbol that foretells trouble. Leferi turns around with displeasure at the fallen girl and tells her not to catch his eye. Ludwig sits down next to her, helping her up, and our boy thinks about how, in the novel, he has made her bullied just because of her red hair. According to history, red is used to symbolize courage and bravery. However, it later becomes considered a symbol of trouble since archdemons have red eyes and hair. And thinks about how her own parents have thrown her out for this reason, forcing her to live on the street. Unlike him, our boy imagines the girl standing there while everyone laughs behind her and thinks about how she endures all the bullying because, without the temple, she has nowhere else to go. Our boy looks away in frustration and decides everyone rejects her and bullies her just because of her hair color. What a terrible scenario. He goes into the classroom while Ludwig helps her up and thinks about how she has managed to make friends with a guy and how the bullying has decreased, but wonders how long it will last. Our boy looks at the screen with various talents and decides it is time to choose his first talent. He thoughtfully looks at the list and thinks about which one to choose. Our boy sees a talent and wonders didn't he leave out this talent because it was too overpowered.